Shadows in the penthouse. Ethan Reed adjusted his cufflinks as he surveyed the Seattle skyline from his penthouse window. At 42, he had built Horizon Technologies into a billion-dollar company, but raising Sophie alone since his wife's passing 3 years ago remained his greatest challenge. "Sophie, honey, where are you hiding?" His voice echoed through the minimalist space designed more for entertaining investors than housing a 7-year-old girl. A small figure with unruly auburn curls peeked from behind a modernist sculpture. "I'm not hiding, Daddy, I'm observing," Sophie replied, using her latest vocabulary word with careful precision. Ethan smiled. His daughter's intelligence was her mother's legacy, along with those amber eyes that sometimes made his chest ache with remembrance. "Well, Ms. Observer, remember Camille is joining us for dinner tonight." Sophie's smile dimmed slightly. "Will she stay late again?" Before Ethan could answer, the elevator chimed. Camille Laurent glided into the apartment, her model-thin frame wrapped in a designer dress, platinum blonde hair styled impeccably. At 34, she was the marketing director of a luxury brand conglomerate and everything the tabloids expected beside Ethan Reed. "There's my handsome man," she cooed, kissing Ethan with practiced elegance before turning to Sophie. "And there's the little princess. Have you been behaving?" Sophie nodded silently, her small fingers fidgeting with the hem of her dress. "I've hired someone new for the household," Ethan mentioned as they moved toward the dining room. "The agency sent her over today, a household manager with experience in childcare." Camille's smile tightened. "Another one? What happened to Mrs. Patel?" "She retired to be with her grandchildren," Ethan explained. "This one's younger, but her references are excellent. She has a background in child development." "We don't need a babysitter," Camille said, her voice dropping to a whisper as she squeezed his arm. "I told you I can handle things when you're busy." The doorbell rang before Ethan could respond. "That must be her now." Olivia Bennett stood in the doorway, her chestnut hair pulled back in a simple ponytail, wearing practical dark slacks and a blue blouse. At 31, she carried herself with quiet confidence rather than Camille's practiced glamour. "Mr. Reed, I'm Olivia Bennett." Her handshake was firm, her brown eyes direct but kind. "Thank you for this opportunity." Sophie approached cautiously, studying the newcomer with curiosity. Olivia knelt to Sophie's level. "Hello there. You must be Sophie. I heard you like astronomy. Is that right?" Sophie's eyes widened. "How did you know?" "Your father mentioned it in the interview." Olivia smiled. "I brought something for you." She retrieved a small package from her bag, a nightlight that projected constellations onto the ceiling. "Can I see how it works?" Sophie asked, the first genuine enthusiasm she'd shown all evening. "After dinner," Ethan interjected, noticing Camille's impatience. Throughout dinner, Olivia observed the dynamics with careful attention. Camille dominated conversation with stories about celebrity clients and Fashion Week dramas. Whenever Sophie attempted to speak, Camille would interrupt or redirect with a practiced, "Adults are talking, sweetie." Later, while Ethan took a business call, Olivia helped Sophie prepare for bed. Through the partially open bathroom door, she overheard Camille's voice, suddenly stripped of its syrupy charm. "Sophie, darling, you really should stop interrupting when grown-ups are speaking. It makes your father look bad when his child is so poorly behaved." Sophie's whispered response was barely audible. "I'm sorry, and please don't get attached to this new help." They never stay long. When Olivia entered with Sophie's pajamas, Camille's smile reappeared instantly. "Just giving our little girl some womanly advice," she said, patting Sophie's head before sauntering out. Olivia noticed Sophie's slumped shoulders and distant gaze. As she helped the child into bed and set up the constellation projector, she made a mental note of everything she'd witnessed. "The stars are like secrets," Sophie whispered as blue and white lights danced across her ceiling. "Sometimes they hide, but they're always there." Olivia tucked the blanket around her. "You're very right, Sophie. And some people are good at seeing what others miss." In the kitchen, Olivia organized her workspace while contemplating what she'd observed. Her job description said, "household manager," but her instincts told her Sophie needed more than tidied rooms and scheduled playdates. She needed an advocate, As Camille's laughter drifted from Ethan's study, Olivia silently promised to be that person, whatever it might cost. Fractures in the facade rain lashed against the windows of Ethan's home office as he reviewed Horizon's quarterly reports. 6 weeks had passed since Olivia joined the household, and he couldn't help but notice the changes. The penthouse felt warmer somehow, less like a showroom and more like a home. Sophie seemed to be emerging from her shell, at least around Olivia. A soft knock interrupted his thoughts. "Mr. Reed, do you have a moment?" Olivia stood in the doorway, her expression serious. In her hands was a leather-bound portfolio, of course. "And please, it's Ethan." He gestured to the chair across from him. "Is everything all right with Sophie?" "That's what I wanted to discuss." Olivia sat, her posture straight but tense. "I understand this may seem presumptuous, but I'm concerned about Sophie's emotional well-being, particularly regarding her interactions with Ms. Laurent." Ethan frowned. "What do you mean?" "Camille adores Sophie. When you're present, yes." Olivia chose her words carefully. "But I've observed concerning patterns when you're not around." "That's a serious accusation," Ethan said, his voice cooling. "Camille has been nothing but supportive of my relationship with Sophie." "I understand how this sounds, and I wouldn't bring it to your attention without substantial reason." Olivia opened the portfolio. "I've documented specific incidents over the past 6 weeks. Verbal belittling, emotional manipulation, and on one occasion, physical roughness that left bruises." Ethan's face darkened as he examined the evidence. Sophie's artwork with her own explanations transcribed beside each piece, journal entries detailing Camille's comments, photographs of fingerprint bruises on Sophie's arm. "Why wouldn't Sophie tell me this herself? She's been told that you wouldn't believe her, that you'd be disappointed in her for making things up." Olivia met his gaze directly. Children often protect the adults they love, even at their own expense. Ethan ran a hand through his hair, conflict evident in his expression. "I need time to process this. I appreciate your concern, but—" The conversation halted as Sophie's scream echoed through the apartment. They found her in the living room, tears streaming down her face as Camille stood over her, holding a torn piece of paper. "What's going on here?" Ethan demanded. Camille's expression instantly softened. "Oh, darling, I was just explaining to Sophie that her artwork doesn't belong on the coffee table when we have important guests coming. She got upset when I tried to put it away. You ripped it!" Sophie sobbed. "It was for Daddy's birthday!" Olivia quietly retrieved the torn pieces. A carefully drawn portrait of Ethan with "World's Best Dad" written in Sophie's uneven handwriting. "It was an accident," Camille insisted, her voice honeyed. Sophie yanked it away and it tore. "Then she had this little tantrum." She reached for Sophie's shoulder. "Sweetheart, tell Daddy you're sorry for overreacting." Sophie flinched away from Camille's touch, backing toward Olivia. The gesture wasn't lost on Ethan. He knelt to his daughter's level. "Sophie, have I ever told you that you can always tell me the truth no matter what?" Sophie glanced fearfully at Camille, then back to her father. "Even if you think it might make me sad or angry," Ethan continued. "Even if someone told you not to." "Ethan, what are you doing?" Camille laughed nervously. "She's clearly upset and making a scene. Has Camille ever hurt you or made you feel bad about yourself?" Ethan asked Sophie directly, ignoring Camille's indignant gasp. Sophie's lower lip trembled. She nodded almost imperceptibly. "This is ridiculous," Camille snapped, her veneer cracking completely. "I've put up with your brat for months, pretending she's not a constant irritation. And now you're taking the word of a manipulative child and your plain little maid over mine." The room fell silent. Ethan stood slowly, his expression hardening. "I think you should leave," he said quietly. "You can't be serious," Camille sputtered. "Over a temper tantrum?" "No. Over the fact that I just watched you become a completely different person the moment you thought you might not get your way." Ethan's voice remained even. "The woman I thought I knew would never speak about my daughter that way." Camille's face contorted with rage. "You'll regret this. Both of you will." She grabbed her purse, storming toward the elevator. "You think your precious little family is better off without me?" Good luck finding someone else willing to take on a workaholic with emotional baggage and his clingy spawn. After the elevator doors closed, Ethan turned to find Sophie still trembling. Olivia had wrapped a protective arm around her shoulders. "I'm sorry, Daddy," Sophie whispered. "She said you loved her more and would send me to boarding school if I told." Ethan dropped to his knees, gathering his daughter in his arms. "Never, do you hear me? There is nothing in this world more important to me than you." Over Sophie's head, his eyes met Olivia's. "Thank you," he mouthed silently. She nodded, relief evident in her expression. Whatever came next, the truth was finally in the open. Truth in the aftermath. Autumn painted Central Park in fiery hues visible from the penthouse windows. 3 months had passed since Camille's dramatic exit, and the Reed household had settled into a new rhythm. Ethan had scaled back his work commitments, delegating more to his executive team to spend afternoons with Sophie. Olivia found him in the kitchen one Saturday morning, attempting to make French toast while Sophie giggled at his clumsy flipping technique. "Need some assistance?" Olivia offered, smiling at the domestic scene so different from the austere environment she'd first encountered. "Please," Ethan laughed, surrendering the spatula. "I'm better with spreadsheets than spatulas." "Olivia, tell Daddy about our secret project." Sophie bounced excitedly on her stool. "Secret project?" Ethan raised an eyebrow. Olivia expertly rescued the half-burned toast. "Sophie has been working on something special. Perhaps now is a good time to show him." Sophie dashed to her room, returning with a handmade book titled My Family Story. "Ms. Josephine at school says sometimes writing helps when big changes happen," Sophie explained, placing the book in her father's hands. "Olivia helped me with the hard words." Ethan carefully turned the pages filled with Sophie's drawings and words. The story began with her mother's death, represented by a mother-shaped star in the night sky, then depicted the lonely times when it was just her and Daddy, who was always working. Camille appeared as a tall figure with a smile that changed to a frown when Daddy wasn't looking. The final pages showed their current life. Sophie, Ethan and Olivia having picnics, watching movies, visiting museums. The last page read, "And now we are happy again." Ethan blinked rapidly, his throat tight with emotion. "This is beautiful, Sophie. Thank you for sharing your story with me. Dr. Ramirez says it's important to talk about feelings, even the scary ones," Sophie said, referring to the child psychologist she'd been seeing. "Dr. Ramirez is very wise." Ethan closed the book gently. "I'm sorry I didn't see what was happening before." "It's okay." "Daddy!" Olivia saw. Later that evening, after Sophie was asleep, Ethan found Olivia organizing the week's meal plan in the kitchen. "I never properly thanked you," he said, leaning against the counter. "You risked your job to protect my daughter." Olivia looked up from her notes. "Any decent person would have done the same. We both know that's not true. Many people would have minded their own business." Ethan's expression grew serious. "I've been meaning to ask. Your background in child development seems extensive for someone working as a household manager." Olivia hesitated. "I was a child psychologist at Boston Children's Hospital." "Was?" She sighed, setting down her pen. "I had a case, a young boy showing signs of abuse. I reported my concerns, but his father was influential. My reports were dismissed as overreaction. 3 months later, the boy was hospitalized with severe injuries." Her voice wavered slightly. "I couldn't stay in a system that failed him, so I left. Took a complete career detour, and ended up here, still protecting children," Ethan observed softly. "I didn't plan to get involved in your personal life," Olivia admitted. "But once I saw what was happening with Sophie, you couldn't look away." Ethan nodded. "That's the difference between someone who sees caregiving as a job and someone who sees it as a calling." A comfortable silence settled between them. "Sophie's birthday is next month," Ethan said finally. "She wants to have a planetarium sleepover. Apparently you told her about the special events they host." "It seemed right up her alley," Olivia smiled. "She's been fascinated by black holes lately. She also mentioned that she wants you to come. Not as staff, but as a guest." Ethan's eyes met hers. "In fact, she's been asking if you could stay even after she gets all better." Olivia felt heat rise to her cheeks. Mr. Reed, Ethan, I would never want to overstep my boundaries. What if I told you those boundaries have been shifting? He moved closer, his voice gentle. Sophie isn't the only one who's grown attached to your presence. This is complicated, Olivia whispered, though she didn't step away. I care deeply for Sophie. And what about her father? Ethan asked, his question hanging in the air between them. Before she could answer, the baby monitor on the counter crackled with Sophie's voice, calling out from a nightmare. They both moved instinctively toward her room. The conversation paused, but the understanding between them deepening. The silent guardian, the morning sun streamed through the penthouse windows as Olivia prepared Sophie's breakfast. 3 weeks into her position, she had established a routine that brought structure to the child's previously chaotic schedule. Today was Saturday. Normally, Ethan would join them for pancakes, but he had left at dawn for an emergency meeting with overseas investors. Is Daddy coming back for our museum day? Sophie asked, carefully arranging blueberries into a smiley face on her pancake. He promised to try, Olivia answered honestly. But remember what we talked about? Sophie nodded solemnly. Sometimes plans change, and that's okay because we can adapt. Exactly right. Olivia smiled, noticing how Sophie's vocabulary had expanded since they began their daily word games. The elevator chimed. But instead of Ethan, Camille strutted in wearing designer workout clothes. Her face flushed from exercise. Oh, you're still here, she said, eyeing Olivia with barely concealed displeasure before turning to Sophie. And you're making a mess with your food as usual. Sophie's smile vanished as she quickly wiped away a drop of syrup from the counter. Actually, Sophie has been very careful, Olivia interjected pleasantly. She's even been helping clean up after meals. Camille's eyes narrowed slightly. Well, aren't you the perfect little housekeeper? She said to Sophie, her tone making the compliment sound like anything but. I hope you're not bothering Olivia with your endless questions and stories. Your father mentioned you've been quite demanding lately. Sophie stared at her plate, shoulders hunched. I'm sorry. No need to apologize, Olivia said firmly. Curiosity is a sign of intelligence. Camille poured herself a glass of green juice. Ethan sent me to tell you he won't make it back for your little museum trip. He suggested I take Sophie shopping instead. There's a charity gala next weekend and she needs something appropriate. I don't like those parties, Sophie whispered. Everyone pinches my cheeks and nobody talks to me. Don't be ungrateful, Camille snapped, her carefully manicured facade cracking momentarily. Do you know how many little girls would die to attend these events? Your father spoils you rotten. Olivia noticed Sophie's hands trembling slightly, a reaction she'd observed whenever Camille criticized her. Perhaps we could do both. The Science Museum in the morning and shopping afterward? Fine, whatever. Camille waved dismissively. Have her ready by 11. And make sure she wears something presentable. Last time she looked like she dressed herself. After Camille departed for her spa appointment, Olivia knelt beside Sophie. Hey, would you like to try something fun while we wait? I brought some special paper and paints. Sophie's interest piqued. What for? It's called art therapy. Sometimes when words are hard to find, colors and shapes can tell our stories for us. For the next hour, Olivia watched Sophie paint. First hesitantly, then with increasing freedom. The resulting artwork was telling. Dark colors surrounded a small red figure, while a large black shape loomed nearby. A yellow sun appeared in the corner, partially hidden behind gray clouds. Can you tell me about your painting? Olivia asked gently. Sophie pointed to the red figure. That's me. I'm small, but I'm trying to grow. Her finger moved to the black shape. That's the scary feelings when people are disappointed in me. Finally, she touched the partially hidden sun. That's the happy that's trying to come back. Olivia's heart ached. And who helps the happy come back? Sophie added a blue dot near the red figure. This is you. You're not big like the scary feelings, but you're closer to me. Olivia carefully documented the painting in a journal she kept hidden in her room, along with detailed notes about Camille's behavior. The pattern was clear. Camille presented one face to Ethan and another entirely to Sophie when no one was watching. The museum outing proved disastrous. Camille spent the entire time on her phone, hurrying Sophie past exhibits she wanted to explore. At the designer boutique afterward, she criticized Sophie's posture, her hair, her preference for blue over pink. When Sophie accidentally knocked over a display, Camille grabbed her arm hard enough to leave fingerprints. "That's enough," Olivia said, stepping between them. "She's only 7. You're the help." "Don't tell me how to discipline her," Camille hissed, before composing herself as a saleswoman approached. That evening, while helping Sophie with her bath, Olivia noticed the bruises forming on her upper arm. "Does your daddy know when Camille gets angry with you?" she asked carefully. Sophie shook her head. "He loves her. She makes him laugh. And she says, if I tell him about our special talks, he'll be very disappointed in me for making things up." "Sophie, listen to me," Olivia said, meeting the child's eyes. "Nothing you could ever do would make you deserve to be hurt or scared." "Not ever. But what if she's right? What if Daddy doesn't believe me?" Olivia helped Sophie into her pajamas, mind racing. "Sometimes adults need help seeing the truth. But I promise you, I see it. And I won't stop until your daddy sees it too." That night, Olivia added photographs of Sophie's bruises to her documentation, her resolve hardening. She hadn't taken this job intending to disrupt Ethan Reed's relationship, but she would not stand by while a child suffered. Whatever came next, she was prepared to face the consequences. Rebuilding Heart's spring blossomed across the city, 14 months after Olivia first entered the Reed penthouse. The space had transformed. Sophie's artwork adorned the walls, family photos replaced sterile decor, and bookshelves overflowed with both classics and children's literature. Olivia stood on the rooftop garden that had once been an unused terrace, supervising as Sophie carefully watered the tomato plants they had started from seeds. "Do you think they'll be ready for the harvest party?" Sophie asked, now 8.5 and considerably more confident than the withdrawn child Olivia had first met. "Right on schedule," Olivia assured her. "Your father will be impressed with your green thumb." "Dad says I get that from you?" Sophie grinned, revealing a missing front tooth. "He says you make things grow wherever you go." The elevator dinged, and Ethan emerged carrying takeout bags. "How are my favorite farmers today?" "Dad, we got 3 new tomatoes." Sophie abandoned her watering can to hug him. "Impressive," Ethan said, catching Olivia's eye over Sophie's head with a warm smile. "Almost as impressive as your school project winning first prize." Their family dinner, for that was what these meals had become, was filled with Sophie's chatter about science camp and her new friends. The transformation in her was remarkable. Therapy had helped, but so had the stable, loving environment they had created together. After Sophie went to bed, Ethan and Olivia settled on the balcony with glasses of wine, a Friday evening ritual that had evolved naturally between them. "The adoption papers came through today," Ethan said quietly. "Judge Winters expedited them given the circumstances." Olivia's eyes widened. "That's wonderful news. When will you tell her?" "I thought we could tell her together." Ethan reached for her hand. "After all, you're the reason Freya is coming to live with us." Olivia squeezed his fingers, thinking of the 7-year-old they had met through Dr. Ramirez's foster connection program. Freya had suffered similar emotional abuse to what Sophie had experienced, and the 2 girls had bonded instantly during supervised playdates. "Sophie's going to be thrilled to officially become a big sister," Olivia said, her voice thick with emotion. "There's something else." Ethan shifted to face her directly. "Something I've been considering for a while now." Olivia noticed a sudden nervousness in his usually confident demeanor. "When I hired a household manager last year, I never imagined finding someone who would change our lives so completely." He brushed a strand of hair from her face. "You know Sophie adores you." "And I adore her," Olivia replied softly. "But this isn't just about Sophie anymore." Ethan's voice grew serious. "Somewhere between your courage in standing up for my daughter and your patience in helping me become a better father, I fell in love with you, Olivia Bennett." Her breath caught. Though their relationship had gradually evolved from professional to personal over the past year, neither had put such direct words to their feelings. I know this isn't conventional, he continued. I was your employer. There's an age gap. You had a completely different career path before us. But when I look at our life together, the one we've already built without even realizing it, I can't imagine any other future. From his pocket, he withdrew a small velvet box. I'm not asking you to be a replacement mother for Sophie or a caretaker for Freya. I'm asking if you would consider building a family with me, with us, as my partner, my equal, my wife. Tears filled Olivia's eyes as he opened the box to reveal a sapphire ring surrounded by smaller diamonds. It's not a traditional engagement ring, he explained. The sapphire reminded me of the nightlight you brought. Sophie that first day, the one that projected stars on her. Ceiling when everything was dark. Olivia looked from the ring to the man before. Her, not the wealthy entrepreneur the world saw, but the dedicated father she had come to love. You know this will cause a scandal. Your board members, the society pages, they'll say I manipulated my way into your life. Let them talk, Ethan said firmly. We know the truth. Love didn't come first for us. Respect did. Trust did. And that's a foundation that will weather any storm. Olivia took a deep breath. Before I answer, there's something you should know. I've been offered a position at Columbia, supervising their child psychology program. It would mean returning to my field, making a difference beyond our family. That's wonderful news, Ethan said without hesitation. You should absolutely accept. You wouldn't mind? Having a working wife rather than someone who manages your household? Ethan laughed softly. Olivia, I fell in love with your mind and your heart, not your cooking skills or organizational abilities. I want you to be fulfilled in every aspect of your life. Tears spilled onto her cheeks as she nodded. Then yes. Yes to the position, yes to Freya, and yes to building a family together. As he slipped the ring onto her finger, the door to the balcony slid open. Sophie stood there in her astronaut pajamas, eyes wide. I heard talking and couldn't sleep, she admitted. Is that a ring? Like in the movies? Ethan beckoned her over. It is. I've asked Olivia to marry me. Does that mean she'll be my mom for real? Sophie asked, looking between them. Olivia knelt to Sophie's level. It means I'll be your stepmother officially, but no one will ever replace your real mom. She'll always be in your heart and will always honor her memory. Sophie considered this seriously before breaking into a smile. I think my first mom would be happy. She always told me to find joy in unexpected places. As Ethan wrapped his arms around both of them, Olivia reflected on the journey that had brought them here. She had arrived as an employee seeking to protect a vulnerable child. She would stay as a partner, helping to nurture the remarkable family they had built together, not through wealth or status, but through compassion, courage, and the quiet power of genuine love. In the penthouse that had once felt like a museum, they had created something priceless, a home where healing flourished and broken hearts learned to trust again.